What is going on, everyone? As you can see here, we're jumping right into a match with the Cinderace theme deck. Now, don't want to go through the entire theme deck as I have done that before already on the channel, so I'll leave that as a link in the description down below if you want a full breakdown and review of the deck itself. But this video is just all about getting in there and having some gameplay with the deck itself and seeing if we can have any success with it. Of course, if you are new here, be sure to subscribe to the channel below. It really helps me out and it means that you can stay up to date with any content that I produce, as we do like to keep it lighthearted and fun on the channel with theme deck videos every Tuesday and some more lighthearted meme decks, if you will, later on in the week. Let's go with a Professor Research here though, as we want to continue this turn looking for a Ninetales if possible. We do get a couple of Great Ball, so that could potentially help us get towards the Ninetales. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. We do get a Sudowoodo though. Almost wish that I hadn't got a energy attached to the active there, but I did want to try and guarantee an attack with Ninetales if we did find it, but that's not going to be the case this time around. We can bench these Pokemon, they are good overall, and we'll just go for an attack with our Vulpix. Unfortunately only dealing 20 damage, but we do have a reasonable hand for the following turn here. Just a bit of a shame that my opponent is able to move our energies around, although we don't really have any bad targets for them to move the energy, so no matter where they put it, I'm happy enough with it, and we can always use our hop here to draw some cards. We are going to be getting a switch though, which is quite a nice pickup. So we could actually go for a Pokekid in order to guarantee a Ninetales here, or we'll just go for a hop and draw some cards. I think we'll do that first of all. Looks like we're getting 3 energy, which is reasonable, and then we can just switch into our Sudowoodo and start drawing cards with that, I think. I also want to attach onto our Drampa, of course, a very good attacker there, able to deal 80 damage and knock out a good variety of Pokemon. And then we'll just end our turn with Sudowoodo, drawing us a couple of cards and getting our hand nice and big. Now my opponent does get the 3rd energy onto the Sylveon, and that is going to allow them to start using that Echoed Voice attack, dealing 50 damage, and then on the following turn it's going to deal an additional 50, so 100 total damage. Very good attack there, but we can deal 50 damage on our end, a little bit short of the knockout though, so we're going to have to see if we can pull something off here instead. Now, my opponent does have 70 HP remaining. We could switch into a Dramba here and take a knockout that way. And we do also have a Pokekid as well that we could use, or potentially a Bead, but I do like just attaching, and we can go for the switch into the Drampa. Then we do have Pokekid, so I'm going to make use of that for the time being and guarantee ourselves a Pokemon here. I think just the Scorbunny, and there's the concede from my opponent. They know that they can't keep up with our Drampa, dealing 80 damage every turn, especially when they're using a old theme deck like that. The Sylveon, not very fast, and it's going to be a struggle for them to try and keep in that game. So let's get into another match, see how that one goes. Looks like our next match here is up against the Charizard theme deck. Very formidable fire type theme deck as well. But as long as we can get a good setup here, we should be in a good spot. Now we are going to be using a Great Ball. We did get in some couple of good cards here. I think we'll go for a Wooloo. Unfortunate that we don't have the Scorbunny, just the rest of the evolution line, but we'll certainly take the Wooloo for the following turn. And we do just pass over to our opponent. Nothing else for us to do. That Sudowoodo is just indicating that we can retreat, which obviously don't need to retreat right now as we just attached that energy. So bit silly to do that, and yeah, let's see what my opponent does. We will be evolving into our Dubwheel though on the following turn. We could potentially start attacking with that, or we could use the double draw on Sudowoodo here to start drawing some cards, if of course we wake up, and we do indeed. So we're even able to top deck the switch if we didn't wake up there, so that's pretty good. We do have some good attacks here. The Cotton Guard on the Dubwheel is going to be dealing 30 damage and also reducing 30. So we could go for that, or we could just start drawing cards, and I kind of want to build up a couple of attackers here, so definitely draw some cards first of all, and I suppose putting on the pressure for my opponent, we are only dealing 30 damage at a time, so I'm quite comfortable just to sit back and draw some cards here. If my opponent doesn't do anything on this following turn, then perhaps I'll go in and start dealing some damage. This double does have a high attack cost for the second attack double edge. I say it's a high attack, it is only 3, but it's still a lot higher than 1 or even 2, so it will take us a little bit longer to get that going, but at least we do have that extra energy down. We are finding energy each turn, which is important. My opponent finds another Pokemon, so they're not going to be able to lose quite as quickly as I would have hoped, but they are in a good position here as well. Go and evolve into the Raboot. We do have a switch which we could make use of. I do like the switch here. Very good option. Picking up an ordinary rod, a little unfortunate because that means that we can't actually use the professor's research. But we will switch here. We'll go into the double now, and we can even attach to the active to threaten the knockout on the following turn and deal over 30 damage. Now, if my opponent does get the evolution or even an extra energy here, they could attack for 30, but that is going to be nullified by the Cotton Guard on our Dubwheel, which is excellent. But even if they evolve into the Macargo, then it shouldn't be a problem for us, as we are reducing damage by quite a bit. We see a Leon though from my opponent, which increases damage by 30, so they are going to get that guaranteed 30 damage at the very least. We'll continue to attach to the active though, and knock out our opponent, dealing 120. We do also have to take 30 damage ourselves, but that's alright because we have taken a knockout, and we're forcing my opponent to go back quite a few turns, as they really did commit to that Slugma just to deal 30 damage. So now they're going into a Sudowoodo, not attaching energy onto it though, really putting that onto the bench where they can build up a Charizard, as they do have the Charmeleon there. And the Professor's Research is going to help them find the Charizard in their deck, but they're losing both of their ordinary rods that are in the deck, so that's going to be huge, as it's going to limit the Pokemon that they have available to use throughout this game, which is very good for us anyway. We'll start attaching energies onto our Raboot. I think probably the best course of action, although Drampa is a very good attacker as well. I think Raboot is going to be better overall, so we'll start attaching there. And I think we do still want to hold off on the ordinary rod. A little unfortunate, but we do have another double here that we can evolve into, so we'll go with that. And we'll just get another knockout, taking our second prize of the game, seeing if we get anything useful. Great Ball, not too bad. That could help us find a Cinderace off the top 7 cards anyway, so we'll certainly take that. My opponent getting a Yanmega into play here. It's going to be good for them, as it does have free retreat on this, so it's a nice pivot option, especially in this situation when a Pokemon has just been knocked out. They can just throw up that Yanmega and easily retreat it when they need to. They also get another energy onto the Charmeleon there, and they are looking for the Charizard off of the Hop, drawing them 3 cards, but it doesn't look like they would have got that, as they typically would have been playing it down immediately after drawing, but yep, they are going to be retreating, so interestingly enough, they're being aggressive now, looking to take the knockout on our Dubwheel. I mean, I would have happily knocked out itself over time just by taking knockouts on my opponent, but we would have been ahead at that point, so my opponent's trying to be a bit aggressive here and take a frontal attack. So let's promote the Sudowoodo, and we'll get another Dubwheel up and running, and then we can go with a Great Ball as well. See if we get any Cinderace. We get a Raboot, which is reasonable, although we don't have the Score Bunny, so we'll just take the Ninetales for now. Not a huge amount of damage that Ninetales can do, but it is better than nothing, so we'll take it. And we'll also be attaching onto the Raboot for sure. We'll go for an ordinary rod. Do I want to shuffle in Pokemon? Probably not. We'll just shuffle in some energies here, as it is just the Wooloo and Dubwheel that's in the discard pile. Then we can go for a research, get rid of those energies and get some better cards in our hand that we can work with, like this Cinderace, for example. We do also get another Score Bunny, which is very good, and now we have to decide, do we want to retreat, try and attack, or just continue drawing, and we probably do just want to keep drawing cards at this point because the attack on Cinderace isn't going to be doing a lot, just 100 or 160, but that's once we get the 3 energy. At the moment it is just 40 damage, so I'm quite happy just to draw a couple of cards here and stall for a turn with Sudowoodo. We're certainly putting up a good fight though. It's taken a couple of turns for my opponent to get Charizard into play, and they might not even have it yet because, as we saw, they didn't have it the previous turn, and they are very much relying on top decks at this point. And like we said earlier, they do have both of the ordinary rods in the discard, so as long as we can get through this one Charmeleon, we should be in a very good spot to win this game quite easily overall. Downside though to my opponent having Yanmega in the deck is it is weak to lightning rather than fire, I believe. I could be wrong, but no, apparently these ones are both weak to fire, so quite interesting. I'm pretty sure the old Yanmegas used to be weak to lightning because it's a flying type, of course, but interestingly enough it is weak to fire, and I'm totally fine with that because we are very much fire focused right now. Let's go with a energy going on to our not Reboot, the Cinderace now that it's evolved, and we can get a hop to draw 3, and then we can use our Great Ball just so that we can get as many cards into the deck as possible, and that's really paying off here as we're able to get the second Cinderace near enough into play, and we can also retreat if we want to, and yeah, I think we really have to retreat here, keep the pressure on my opponent, and take this knockout while we have the opportunity. So that's going to be 160 damage, absolutely knocking out that Charmeleon. Unfortunately, we do get a Tails on the coin flip, so we have to discard 2 energies, but at the very least we pick up another switch off of our prizes. That's going to help us in order to switch out to another Pokemon if we want to, or we can just continue to attack here. My opponent promoting the Yanma with the energy and trying to build up another Charmeleon as well. They're playing a Dan to draw some cards. We lose rock, paper, scissors, so they do get an additional 2 cards, but that's alright. We are ahead enough here, and they're going for the attack. The U-turn, 10 damage, and switching into another Pokemon. Just going to be the Charmander for now. I think we'll go for a Pokemon catcher if we can help it, and we do probably want to attach onto the bench here. For the first attack, of course, we get to attach a fire from the discard pile onto this Pokemon, so I definitely want to build up Pokemon on the bench. We'll just attach onto the Reboot, and we'll go for a catcher here. Can we get ahead? Unfortunate that we do not, so we'll go for a bead and attach an additional energy just while we have the opportunity. We don't want to miss this, and yeah, let's just go for our 40 damage attack. They've already committed to evolving the Charmeleon on the bench, so they should be stranded in the active with this Charmander right now. That's going to allow us to once again have another turn where we attach a bunch of energies and then we can get the knockout, unless they have a switch here in order to come in with a different Pokemon. We'll have to see. They are just attaching to the bench though once again, so that tells me that they don't really have a lot going on, especially when they're attaching onto the Yanma rather than Yanmega. Yes, true, the U-turn on Yanma does only cost 1 energy, but on Yanmega you're at least doing a substantial amount of damage. 50 is a lot more than 10, so it would make sense to do it there instead, but here we go. After a professor's research, they do finally get that Charizard into play. That's going to help out their consistency quite a bit, as well as give them a threatening Pokemon on their board. But you gotta wonder if there's going to be time for them to actually win this game. They do only have 3 cards left in their deck. They tried everything in order just to get this Charizard out, and considering they have 5 prize cards to take, and they've just discarded their entire deck, they've opted for the ability on Charizard, so that is it. The game is ours, as my opponent has no deck remaining, so we'll take this as a knockout, but it is going to be the game on our end as a victory either way. And even making it better with that hedge right there on the coin flip. So yeah, going down to 2 prize cards, there was no way my opponent was going to win this one, I don't think, even with the Charizard coming in there, but we were able to comfortably take that as a victory. Let's get into a third and final match and see if we can make this 3 for 3 and really showing the dominance of Cinderace. Our third match here is against a Zamazenta theme deck, so this should be fairly straightforward considering we do have the type advantage, of course. Definitely want to be attaching onto our fire type Pokemon, and we will pass over to my opponent just so that we have that 1 card deeper dig into the deck with Great Ball on the following turn. But of course we do always have the Pokekid if we don't find what we're looking for, which of course is going to be a reboot. If we can get the Cinderace up as quickly as possible, then we're going to be in a perfect position in order to win this game. And there is the reboot off of the Great Ball. That is perfect. We can definitely get that into play, and then I can quite happily use a hop here in order to draw 3 rather than the Pokekid, and we are getting a Sudowoodo as well. So pretty good selection overall. Unfortunately no energy cards, that's the only thing that we're missing here, as we can then actually get going for these following turns. I know I did attach energy that turn, but we have to keep an eye out for these coming turns so that we can actually keep the game going and have energy for our Cinderace. Looks like my opponent has the same idea though. They've got a couple of evolution Pokemon on their side of the board. Unfortunately they are only able to get 1 head, so they're only dealing 30 damage, but that is better than nothing. It is slowly whittling down our Dubwheel, and we can go for a Pokekid though now that we have our Cinderace. I think we can grab another fire type Pokemon, probably the Ninetales that we want to go for now, as that does have a fairly efficient attack, and that's also going to thin out the deck of a card which isn't an energy card, so we can hopefully draw it into an energy or another supporter card here and see if we can get a big attack off on some of these metal Pokemon. Get some big numbers on the screen, that's what we like to see here. My opponent's using a hop to draw 3, and then they're going to be attaching onto a Zamazenta. Not going to be attaching onto the active, which I would have recommended, but they're not going to do that, and they are instead just attacking us for 30 damage. Once again, we do find that fire energy though, which is going to be ideal, attached onto this Cinderace, and then we can pass over to my opponent so that when they do knock out this Dubwheel, we can get in there and get a nice return knockout. All the downside, of course, is we're still a bit lacking in the energy department, whereas my opponent has quite a number of energy ready to go on these coming turns, so they're going to be able to hit back with that Zamazenta they're building up there. We're going to see another coin flip from my opponent, this time getting 2 heads, which is going to be enough for a knockout on our Dubwheel. And all we can do now is cross our fingers that we get a Professor's Research. That'd be an ideal situation right here, so that we can draw a whole bunch of cards rather than relying on our prize card. But we just get a single energy, which is good enough, and we can now take the knockout, dealing a nice big 320 damage. Oh man, we lose our energies. Getting a tails on the coin flip is always going to be rough with Cinderace, that being its main downside, but of course if we did able to get a heads there, probably would have steamrolled through my opponent, so at least this is keeping it interesting and making it so that my opponent still has a fighting chance. They're certainly getting a lot more supporter cards than we are, as they're able to easily draw through their deck. I'm not doing so well, but we did pick up a Drampa, as well as we do have another Dubwheel evolution that we can certainly put into play, and we can at the very least get another knockout here. That weakness helping us out, enabling us to deal 80 damage, which will be able to knock out my opponent, and we do at least get an energy back onto that Cinderace in the active. We do also pick up a Raboot, which is going to be great. If we find another Score Bunny, we can get a second Cinderace into play, and it looks like my opponent is just trying to stall here, trying to find a couple of attackers so that they can get damage in and actually get through our Pokemon in a nice, efficient way that's going to be dealing damage back to back. But they do have to take a lot of time in order to get that going, so we have plenty of time here. Now, do we want to attach this onto something other than the active and potentially stall as well? Maybe use our Pseudo Widow. We do have a 2 retreat cost, so quite a high retreat cost on the Cinderace, but I suppose we could just slap this on Pseudo Widow here, and then we'll go for 40 damage attack on the active, meaning it is stranded. Yes, my opponent has another turn to attack, but at least it gets another energy in play for us, and then we can finish it off on the following turn. That is the plan anyway. We will be relying on the Pseudo Widow, I think, to try and draw us out of this mess, as my opponent is slowly creeping up in the energy count on their bench there. I see 2 Zamazantas, both with 2 energies, so it's going to be big for them because this Zamazenta is able to deal 120. At least it is similar to us. If they get a Tails, then they can't attack on the following turn, or can't use that attack, so that would certainly be good, but they are going to be attaching an energy onto the active Rookidee, which is potential for them to retreat here. We see a Metal Saucer coming out, getting another energy on a Zamazenta, so they could be attacking for 120. It looks like that's not the case. They're just going to be hitting us for 10 damage with that Rookidee. Very interesting move from my opponent here, and we are going to be taking a knockout on this Rookidee while we have the opportunity, I think. Let's just deal that 160 damage. It's not going to make a difference as my opponent is going to be hitting into his anyways. I suppose we could have kept it on, dealt 40, knocked it out that way, and then been ready for Zamazenta, but it's fine. It's fine. They're going to be coming in with Zamazenta anyways, and Cinderace does have 170 HP, so we do have plenty of time to deal some damage to my opponent, but yeah, potentially a bit of a misplay. Probably should have just knocked it out with a easy 40 damage. Guarantee that we keep the energy in play for sure. So, may backfire, but I'm willing to take responsibility for that one. I'm sure you can always correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how we learn, and it's also how we keep the game interesting at the end of the day. So, it's totally fine. My opponent is going to be hitting us for 120 damage. There's a heads on the coin flip, so they are indeed able to attack again with that Zamazenta. We could use a bead, doesn't really make sense though, so we'll just Great Ball, don't get any Pokemon, and oh man, we had 3 supporters there and a Poke here. That really sucks. Now that they're all going to be shuffled up with the deck, that's really unfortunate. I guess we'll go ahead and attach onto the Vulpix so that we can get Ninetales going, and we'll just hit into our opponent. 40 damage becomes 80 with weakness. We can reattach that energy. Not that it matters because my opponent is able to attack again with the Zamazenta and get a knockout on our Cinderace. Should still be ahead though, as my opponent is able to take a prize card. We can then go in with that Pseudo Widow if we want to, or we can also go in with the Ninetales, deal 40 damage. That is a possibility as it would get a knockout on my opponent here, so potential for that. I don't really think it's worth it though, because my opponent is building up so many bench Pokemon, so we will instead use a Pseudo Widow to try and draw some cards. We'll also put down another Vulpix. Definitely want multiple Ninetales in this game, and we'll just settle with a double draw for now. Getting 2 energy is totally fine with me. Like I say, bit of a backfire not using the correct attack on Cinderace there for sure, as we would have been ahead and almost able to win the game. We would have been down on 2 prize cards right now, but these things happen. Misclicks always happen as well. Definitely not what happened, but it's fine. My opponent getting another Rookidee in the hopes that they can get a Corviknight going, and they once again hit us for 120. There's another heads from Zamazenta, meaning that they can attack once again, so we definitely want to go in with our current Vulpix that we have available. We do finally pick up a Score Bunny as well, so we can at least attach energies onto there. Especially with this bead, it's going to accelerate those energies even faster and mean that we have an attacker on these coming turns. And we'll go in, get the knockout with our Vulpix, that weakness really being an important part of this matchup. And there's an extra Raboot that we really do not need right now, but it's fine, we're still ahead on prizes and let's try and keep it that way. at the very least, Reboot does deal some damage. I mean, it can deal 100 damage with the weakness, not quite enough to knock out a Zamazenta, but it could become relevant if we need it. Although it is going to be tricky to try and close out this one now, since my opponent has been able to catch up after our stumble. So we see them able to take a knockout here. Can they get a Tails? Yes, they do finally get Tails. Not that it's going to matter, because they could easily just retreat out of this and go into the Duraludon there that they have set up anyways. I think we can promote something like the double is fine potentially. The Drampa also has a 2 retreat cost, so it doesn't really matter what we promote at this point. We'll just put up the double. I suppose we could have promoted the Score Bunny, but we don't have Cinderace just yet, so we just have to hold out on that one. We'll attach an energy onto the Ribbit though and pass over to my opponent. All we're looking for is a switch card at this point, so that we can actually get Cinderace into the active spot. Pretty sure we don't have any in the discard just yet. We do not. So definitely crossing our fingers that we find a Pokegear or that Professor Research that we saw earlier that was near the top of the deck, and that would be ideal. Then we could actually draw some cards, get into a switch, and get this game closed. My opponent has built up a pretty big hand though, so they should have no issues for finding energies or any other cards. And there we do see the retreat from them, going into Duraludon so that they can take a knockout on double potentially, but looks like they are a little short, only able to deal 110. There is a Pokemon Catcher. I mean, that is a switching card. It's not a switching card for us, unfortunately. We could always try and stall though and bring up a Zamazenta once again, or another bench Pokemon. So sure, let's go with that and see if it works. It does indeed work, so we could even bring up the Corviknight if we wanted to. I think it has to discard a bunch of energies. Yeah, that's right. So it's weak to lightning though, which is not quite our typing, so I think we'll bring up the Zamazenta this time around. For some reason we're not able to select it. There we go. That was interesting, but just one of the many quirks of the Pokemon trading card game client. Definitely excited for that to actually get updated at some point soon. But hopefully we stall out here with the Zamazenta. They can indeed finish us off, as they do have the energy to do that, but assuming of course that nothing goes wrong here, we should be in a good position in order to close out this match with our Cinderace. So let's promote this. Hopefully we don't get a bad coin flip. That would be ideal. Ordinary Rod, I don't think we want to use that right now, so we'll just go for the attack. Once again, 320 damage with some reduction there. Oh man, we get a Tails on the coin flip, so we're going to be losing those energies. There's a Professor's Research, but I think it's going to be a little bit too late, as my opponent is able to put up this Corviknight, which is going to be detrimental to us really. They have a Dan once again. Can we win the rock, paper, scissors? We do indeed. It's interesting though, they have this Corviknight is going to be able to deal 130, and then they can also reduce damage if they discard energy. Will they be going for that is the question. You gotta imagine that they will be, but even then, it is a very tanky Pokemon, so it's going to be difficult for us to get through it, even if we had our full attack on, but we do not have that right now. I think we can go for an Ordinary Rod and shuffle in a couple of energies before using this research. Definitely want those back in the deck. Not you, Hop. You can go away. You're in the discard pile. We need cards from the deck. And there's plenty of energy. Not that it's going to make a difference, as my opponent can once again hit us for 130. So it doesn't really matter where this energy goes. But we'll hit into them for 40. We get an energy from the discard once again, and that is a well played from my opponent. Like I said, they're able to deal a flat 130 from the Corviknight to knock out our Cinderace, and that is really just down to a misstep from me using the wrong attack and at a crucial point of that game. If I hadn't have done that, then I definitely would have won that game no problem, as we were very much ahead of my opponent, as well as the fact that we were hitting them for weakness, so there shouldn't have been an issue winning that game. And in my opinion, Cinderace is definitely got to be the best fire deck. Let me know what you think. Is it the best fire deck? Is it the best theme deck in your opinion? Do you like it? Do you not? All that good stuff in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.